Good morning. This is part 2 of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods meeting of October the 11th, 2025. We welcome Director Virgil Miller of Ward 1 to talk about the preparing of our city budget. We are in the middle of the process. We haven't heard much about it. We'd like to introduce a couple of our folks here who came in after the round of introductions earlier. Please give us your name and your neighborhood.
My name is Darla Smith, and I'm a member of the Midtown Neighborhood Association, and that includes 20th and Cedar going down to Asher, and then from 20th and Cedar coming across to Jackson.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nanita Danielle Claiborne, and I am the president of Petaway Neighborhood Association.
Thank you. We introduced you earlier, and we introduced Norman earlier. So we'll go straight to Director Miller. Please tell us about the Little Rock budget.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. I was asked to give a general big picture overview of the budgeting process the city has for 2026. And what I'd first like to do is just tell you that on September the 12th, we had a presentation from all our departments about what they had done and then what they were seeking to have done for 2026. And so it was big. It lasted all day. It was from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I just wanted to share with you who we heard from, so you can get a appreciation for the presentations that were done before us on that Friday, September the 12th. So we had presentations from the following departments, which are all our departments of the city: fleet, vehicle storage, public works with buildings, public works with streets, public works, and then waste disposal. Presentations from the fire department, the police department, parks and recs, which included golf and the Jim Daly Center. We had presentations from our district courts. You may be familiar with the fact that we have 3 district courts. We have criminal district court. We had a presentation there. We had traffic court, and we had environmental court. Presentations from community programs, housing and neighborhood programs, the city attorney, the zoo, planning, information technology, 911 emergency communications, human resources, finance, and then finally from the Office of Executive Administration. So it was a full day, as you can imagine. It was real quick and to the point. Not a lot of time for questions. We didn't want to have a lot of questions. We wanted them to get through with the presentations and give us a chance to digest this information so that we could come back with some more specific questions. As you can see, and I'll show you this was our board book presentation that was given to us when we had our meeting. And then there were a number of separate handouts that each department wanted to pass out to us. So it was, we were bombarded with a lot of information so that, again, we just need time to absorb that, and certainly you and the public would have appreciation for us absorbing this information and trying to get back maybe to ask some more specific questions. So let's talk about some of this, the background, some assumptions that we have to deal with, and what these department directors had to deal with when they were making their presentations. That city board wasn't involved in presentations that each department head made to the city manager and to the mayor. This was sort of filtered out, so we got a presentation after they had made their presentations, each department, to the mayor and again to the city manager. So this has been filtered somewhat. But they were given some instructions, and I think that is important for you to know with regard to the background. So let me just share with you some assumptions as it came to the development of the budget, the starting point. We're gonna have 5% salary increases for police officers and firefighters. We negotiated that was part with the union, so that's gonna happen. As you probably are aware, fire and police make up close to 60%, 50+% of the budget. You start right there. So you heard all the rest of these departments. So when you start off with fire and police, that is the percentage of the budget that they get, and then everything else is for all the rest of these departments that I shared with you. We have increased jail cost of approximately $1 million. The county charges us for people that we send over to the county jail. And so I believe there's been some talk about what that cost is. We think it's about $1 million. I think the county may think it's a little more than that. So we're trying to negotiate on that, but that is a cost we know we're gonna have. We're putting together a new cancer screening program for our firefighters that I think everyone would appreciate. The firefighters that go into these buildings and everything that's burning and what they're breathing. And so we think that's money well spent, and I think that's something we need to be doing, and I'm sure the public would certainly support that. We have proposed salary increases for our non-uniform employees, and then of course increased utility costs. And certainly you heard a presentation earlier from Little Rock Reclamation Authority. Our 2025 budget that was adopted was $263 million, 263,008,099. The 2026 budget that's projected is $268 million. That's relatively flat. And so we are anticipating about a 2% overall growth in revenues and expenses from 2025 to 2026. So that is something that has remained pretty flat. Now, if you looked at the board meeting last Tuesday, the whole city boardroom was full of public works employees that are wanting to get an increase in their salary. Of course, what happens is that you have unions that the city and our HR department and our mayor deal with, unions that represent these various groups. Some groups don't totally agree with what union leadership has negotiated for them. And so that's something that we're going to have to deal with doing citizen communications. A spokesman for the public works employees spoke for 3 minutes before the board and the mayor. Everybody from public works stood up behind them and made their point that public works is what makes the city go. Potholes, trash, limbs, when things are frozen, they're the ones who get out and do all the work. And so their union has negotiated with the city, but a lot of their associates, employees are saying maybe the union doesn't represent them in the way that they want. That's a tough situation for the city. Who are you going to negotiate with? Who is representing you? That type of thing. So we have to deal with that. And so we only have X amount of money. As you know, 1/8 of a penny sunsetted from the 2013 sales tax increase. So we're actually working with 1/8 less money than we did in 2013. I think that rolled off about 2021 when I got on the board. 2022, that's gone. And so, as you also know, the city had proposed 2 sales taxes since I've been on the board, or shortly before I got on the board, and both of those failed. So the public has spoken. They want us to operate with what we have, and so that's what we're going to do. And the city's going to keep running. Certainly, I want to make sure you understand that. But I want to give you a specific example of a department that made a presentation, just to give you some idea of what we have to deal with. Our housing and neighborhood programs. They made a request that they presented before us for funds. And just specifically, let me share with you what they talk about. They had a special budget request. For demolitions, $325,000. To board and secure homes, another $55,000. Weed lot maintenance, $475,000. For our neighborhood challenge grants, $50,000. For our land bank, $50,000. An additional code officers, 5 additional code officers on the rental team, $242,000. And then from fleet, they needed 5 additional trucks for $140,000. Each department has sort of similar requests that they were making before the board that they wanted us to consider. And keep in mind that this is after they had made their presentations to the city manager and to the mayor. And so we're getting that, and we're probably going to have to wither this down somewhat. And so when you hear what we're doing and how much we're doing and what we're doing with funds, that's just a part of it. That's just housing and neighborhood programs. I can tell you that as a director, certainly in Ward 1, there may be different for the other wards, the other 6 wards, because we have 7 wards in the city, what their directors hear. But I hear a lot about code enforcement in Ward 1. It is Director Miller, houses that need to be boarded up and secured, or houses that need to be torn down. When are we going to do something about that? It differs if you're in a historical neighborhood, what you can and what you can't do, and what the steps we have to go through with that. Weed lots, Director Miller, what are we going to do about this weed lots? What are we going to do about trash? Those things I hear a lot as a Ward 1 director. I've had to get educated very quickly on different types of codes and different types of neighborhoods and their different needs. Each neighborhood has a different need. Each neighborhood has a different need, and so that's kind of what we're looking at. The assumptions of what we're trying to do, and of course we just heard on the Reclamation Authority. Since they have monopolies, these utilities have a monopoly, we charge them a franchise fee. Okay? And so last Tuesday, we authorized the city manager to negotiate the new franchise fees for telephone service, and all those who have telephone service in the city and internet service, our wastewater, and certainly CAW and those who have monopolies with us. There were some assumptions made with regard to our different funds. From 2025 to 2026, our street fund, we assumed a 2% growth in revenues, but a 5% growth in expenditures from 25 to 26. In our fleet fund, we assumed a 2% growth in revenues and expenses, flat. Vehicle storage, we assumed a 1.5% growth in revenues, but a 2.5% growth in expenses. And then on our waste disposal fund, It assumed a growth of 2% in revenues and 2.5% growth in expenditures. It doesn't take a mathematician to know that that doesn't balance out. And so that's what we're challenged with. We're challenged with trying to do more with less because the citizens have spoken as it relates to sales tax. I don't know what the plans are for the foreseeable future when it comes to maybe another sales tax proposal. I hadn't heard anything about that. But I can share with you what I have heard, because I had made a note of that, that in our 2026 budget, I want to share this with you because I think it's something that obviously you need to hear. In our waste management fund, rates and fees charged by the city have not kept up with inflation. So you were asking some questions about fees with wastewater. Of course, you already had agreed with the fees that we passed for Central Arkansas water. It was made pretty clear to us during the budget presentation that there may be a request for an increase in fees for waste management. It just sounded, so what does that mean? It sounds like it means that before the end of the year, for the budget coming up, we're gonna have probably a request to increase the waste management fee. We have an aging infrastructure and increased needs for city departments. We have slowing revenue growth while expenditures are growing at a faster rate than what we have on revenues. And so we were given all this information, given a chance to digest it. We're still trying to do that. And we're going to go back for another presentation that's going to have some more hard numbers in it for us to take a look at to try to get this budget approved so that we can start off 2026 with an approved budget. Everyone always wants to ask about police, and I wanted to share some information with you as it relates to that. We have about 70, if you talk to our chief of police department, Chief Helton, he will tell you right now we probably have a shortage of our authorized police between 70 and 80 officers. About 75 to 78, I think I heard him say. I've heard him say 72, I've heard him all the way go up to 78 officers short. And then when you add into those who are on leave right now, extended leave, or maybe deployed with the military, you add another 30 officers to that. So at any time right now, we're down about 100 officers. And you say, well, how do you fix that? We have candidates, we have schools come in, but each time we have that, we have officers retiring too. It is a tough job. So we kept into account a $10,000 bonus for those who make it and get sworn in, and then we have another $5,000 bonus if they want to live in the city. And so people always ask, what about police and what are we doing there? That's the reality of the situation. You can have like 700 people apply to be police officers. You might get a class of 25.
And then how many graduate?
Hopefully about 15 or so. And so you have that ongoing challenge of hiring police officers and then those retiring.
What's the starting salary for a police officer in addition to the $15,000 incentive?
We got up to about 50,000+, although I've heard the chief say that we are competing against 12 other agencies that are trying to hire police officers. The top of the food chain is Arkansas State Police. I think they start probably around about 75,000 or so. And then we're competing with all the rest of the municipalities around us, North Little Rock, Conway, Benton, Bryan, Cabot, of course, not to mention State Capitol Police. And so those are the entities that we're competing with, and that's why we got the salaries up, and then we're trying, again, we promised another 5%. And I can tell you that every time we get a raise, or if there is a sales tax, we will hear from the police and for the firefighters. And now Public Works is also saying, look, don't forget about Public Works. What about all the rest of our uniformed police officers? So, I mean, our uniformed employees, our non-uniformed employees. So,
Director Miller, thank you so much for this. We seem to be coming short of our power for our live streaming,
yes.
so I'm going to say,
Questions if you have any, but.
at this point, we will conclude the live streaming.
Okay.
We'll adjourn in a few minutes, but
Yes.
we'll now conclude the live streaming. It will be posted at clrn.ar. Thank you so very much for telling us about the budget. We know we must vote one by year end legally.
Yes.
Is there going to be any other public presentation or public hearing?
There will be. There will be another presentation that will be presented by the mayor, the city manager, and department heads to the rest of the board. So this was the initial, trying to get this started, and then we'll have another presentation. So
At a time to be announced.
yes, it will be announced.
Thank you so very much. This concludes the October the 11th live streaming meeting of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods. Thank you. I thought that was better than running out and not realizing